Well, from insects to rodents and collapsing floors, that's what some families in several Langley Park apartment complexes have had to endure. CTV takes you inside the Bedford Station Apartments, where residents have been complaining about living in subhuman conditions.
Mis niños, pues ellos son los que han estado así con gripe y tos, por todo lo que tiene el apartamento.
Judith Sanchez says her children suffer from flu-like symptoms and coughing, health effects from the deplorable conditions that she, her husband, and 2 young boys are living in. Ceilings, floors, and walls that are covered in mold and mildew, occasional rats, and swarms of cockroaches. The family is renting from the Bedford Station Apartments in Langley Park, one of 3 foreclosed complexes now owned by CW Capital Bank.
In one hand, management has been treating tenants with no respect whatsoever. It hasn't been responsive to improve living conditions in the buildings, living conditions that are really deplorable, that are really bad.
1 floor up from the Sanchez apartment lives a family whose kitchen is literally falling apart. The cabinets and countertops are crumbling from decay and bug infestation. Below the sink, you can see severe water damage that is causing the floor to actually collapse into the lower apartment. The family who lives here was recently forced to eat out for a week because the stove wasn't functioning.
That's the worst apartment to live. There's no sometimes there's no hot water, there's no AC. The floor was so bad, they had a cockroach, bedboard, nobody, it's like the worst living place somebody can be able to live.
That's the reason you left?
That's the reason I left anyway, yeah.
Last winter, they went, many families went without, the heater system was broken, no hot water throughout the winter time, and many were without electricity. So those are very serious issues that the management and the bank itself have to be responsible for.
Both families pay nearly $1,000 a month for these apartments, plus an additional $150 monthly to use a window air conditioning unit. They say management originally told them that it would waive the fee since they often didn't have heat or electricity in the winter. But that agreement ended when new management recently took over. And renters of this complex, owned by the same bank, have had what appears to be a water pipe break for the past several months. Since H2O bills are also paid directly by renters, they're not sure how the excess water could affect their payments. And the 3 properties, Bedford Station, Victoria Station, and Newberry Square, all went into foreclosure and are now owned by CW Capital Bank. We called both the D.C. office and their headquarters in Massachusetts to answer some of our questions, but have yet to receive a response.
Meanwhile, CTV's Markette Smith is at the Bedford Station Apartments in Langley Park to discuss what recourse tenants have when facing a slumlord situation.
Well, the main question among residents here is how do they get immediate action in getting the so-called deplorable conditions inside of these apartment buildings cleaned up by the property owners. Earlier today, we knocked on the doors of the Bedford Station leasing office to get answers, but there was no response. Excuse me, do you work here? You don't work here? And if a property owner does not seem willing to work with tenants to resolve an issue, residents can seek the help of Maryland state officials. And one way they can do that is by calling the State Attorney General's office. Online, they can file a petition complaining. They can also call a hotline for the Multi-Housing Complaints Unit. And lastly, residents can petition the court to legally not pay rent to the property owners, but instead pay their rent to a court-monitored escrow account. But in order to do that, they'll have to prove that there are serious conditions going on inside of these buildings, and those include a lack of heat, light, electricity, or water. Residents will also have to prove that there is inadequate sewage disposal, rodent infestation, and at least 2 or more units. And lastly, residents will have to prove the existence of any conditions inside of these buildings that present a serious fire or health hazard. In Langley Park, I'm Markette Smith, CTV News.
For more information on tenants' rights, they can be found at the U.S. Department of Housing's website, hud.gov.